This indigenous culture has not only preserved our environment but also fostered a deep sense of stewardship and adaptive capacity. By integrating cultural identity with disaster preparedness and climate action, we can create policies that empower communities to thrive in the face of challenges. Moving beyond conservation, we must embrace regeneration. Cultural landscape can be embedded in climate action strategies to promote sustainability, biodiversity, and human well-being. In Bhutan, innovative urban and rural planning rooted in cultural values has ensured that development aligns with the environmental preservation. Our cultural practices, such as community festivals and traditional land management, serve as catalysts for social cohesion and community vitality. These practices remind us that culture is not static but a dynamic force that can drive regenerative change. Culture is a cornerstone of resilience, sustainability, and community well being. By leveraging our tradition and practices, we can address global challenges while preserving the essence of who we are. Bhutan remains committed to fostering a future where culture and nature coexist harmoniously, ensuring a thriving legacy for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I now request Bangladesh to take the floor, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me, please?
We can hear you, we can see you loud and clear.
Thank you. First of all, this is Mohammed Mukhlisur Rahman Akam, Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Cultural Affairs, Bangladesh. I would like to extend my thanks for giving me the floor to share my reflections on culture for peace and AI in culture. In today's world of divisions and intolerance, negating dialogue's mechanism to resolve bilateral and multilateral issues, culture, like the Greek mythological Orpheus's role, has a role to play to unite people of the planet in peace. Cultural elements like folklore, music, and other creative works do not know any boundary. They transmit similar human emotions and their articulations across culture that bind us together. Therefore, culture in general, with all its manifestations of goodness, has to be fully tapped in order for ensuring sustainable peace and harmony in living a peaceful and harmonious life on earth. Respected Chair, before I share my reflections, I would like to remind you that our minister yesterday said that we have not yet adopted any policy regarding intersection of culture and artificial intelligence. But about the emerging issues such as use of artificial intelligence in culture and creative work has been on the table for several years. As we know, that technology-driven crafted devices are enablers in different human efforts. They are not thinkers themselves. As such, AI is breathed into life by humans to assist them in certain areas of work. On the other hand, cultural goods and heritages are inherited and proudly owned by communities concerned, where ingenuity is the most important aspect. To mass produce cultural goods using the AI for commercialization would obviously tax on this novelty and ownership. Respected Chair, if not regulated through normative guidelines, it is likely to infringe the intellectual rights of the artists, be it music, books, paintings, or any other genre of creativity. Therefore, UNESCO needs to come forward to set normative ethical standards, especially taking into consideration the risk of using AI in cultural sectors across the member states. Thank you, respected Chair, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Next up is Indonesia. Please take the floor. Indonesia, you may please take the floor. Is there
Good morning.
a, yes, there.
Thank you much.
Yes.
May I continue?
Yes, please. We are not able to hear you right now. We can see you. So probably you want to kind of
Okay.
stabilize your connection or do something about it.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, much better. Please continue.
Okay. Let me continue about my remarks from Indonesian side. The cultural sector is facing significant challenges, particularly in its role in fostering peace and navigating the rise of artificial intelligence. Culture has long served as a tool for social cohesion and conflict resolution. Yet political tensions. Additionally, artificial intelligence presents both opportunities and concerns, offering innovative solutions for cultural productions and the preservation of cultural diversity. To address these challenges, the cultural sector must leverage its potential for peace building and ensure and creativity. Additionally, Indonesia's rich cultural heritage also plays a key role in promoting interfaith harmony. Temples like Borobudur, originally built as a Buddhist site, are now maintained by a diverse range of workers from different religious backgrounds, including Islam and Christianity. This example demonstrates how Indonesia's cultural heritage, including its ancient Hindu Buddhist temples, fosters religious tolerance and unity. Despite the majority of people around these temples practicing Islam or Christianity, these sites continue to serve as places of worship for Hindus and Buddhists, illustrating how cultural heritage can unite different communities in peaceful coexistence. Furthermore, a significant artificial intelligence project is underway to assess and preserve the reliefs of Borobudur, showcasing how technology can contribute to cultural preservation while engaging in the public in these efforts. This project, in collaboration with the University of Gajah Mada, will allow visitors to actively participate in preserving this UNESCO World Heritage Site. Such initiative highlights how artificial intelligence can be used to engage the public in cultural conservation while protecting heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, developing new national legislation and policies to strengthen heritage conservation, promote cultural and linguistic diversity, and protect indigenous peoples' knowledge. The looting of cultural property in times of armed conflict require more deliberate action with a view of return and restitution. The international community should invest in the reconstruction and rehabilitation of museums after armed conflicts. Actions undertaken in the coordination with the international organizations to support the conservation and restoration of cultural heritage in countries affected by armed conflict and climate change were presented. The need of concerted efforts and strengthen emergence, the implementation of UNESCO's 1954 Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property and the Event of Conflict and the 1970 Convention on Illicit Trafficking of Cultural Property was underlined as a critical role for the protection of cultural conflict, culture for project deserving greater investment. That's all. Terima kasih and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. I think there was some issue with the transmission, so we were not able to hear the address in its entirety. So I would request all the member states and the speakers from the member states to please submit your written statements so that we can take a note of it while preparing the summary of the consultations. I understand from the Secretariat that there is no other member state who have expressed the desire to take the floor right now. Is that correct, Mr. Curtis? Right. So now I would like to invite ICH CAP Category 2 Center in the Republic of Korea to take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jin Young-seo, Program Specialist in HCAP, Republic of Korea. First, on behalf of our Director General Ji-sung Kim, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to UNESCO and the Government of India for graciously hosting this regional consultation meeting and for providing me with the opportunity to engage in this important and timely dialogue. HCAP, the International Information and Networking Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia-Pacific region, is a UNESCO Category 2 center operating within the framework of the 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. At the core of our mission are two key functions: information sharing and network building. We strive to support UNESCO's strategic goals and work alongside the 48 member states in the Asia-Pacific region. Ultimately, our efforts are aligned with advancing the SDGs through the lens of intangible cultural heritage. Today, I would like to reflect on the significant role that Category 2 Center play in providing a vital platform for cooperation, knowledge exchange, and the development of innovative solutions to the many challenges that the face of culture sector today, with example of HCAP. The challenges confronting the culture sector in the Asia-Pacific region are both multifaceted and urgent. Climate change, globalization, and technological disruption are three major forces that threaten the survival of traditional knowledge systems, cultural practices, and the unique identities of the communities that have long safeguarded them. Climate change, for instance, is having a direct and increasingly severe impact on cultures that are rooted in specific ecosystems, such as traditional agriculture techniques, indigenous language, and ceremonial rituals tied to the land. At the same time, globalization often accelerates the erosion of cultural identities as dominant culture overshadow local practices, leaving communities vulnerable to cultural homogenization. In light of these challenges, HCAP has dedicated its efforts to fostering regional cooperation and building networks that facilitate knowledge exchange and strengthen the capacity among countries and communities through diverse projects. Central to our approach is the integration of intangible cultural heritage and education by utilizing technology, creating spaces where experts, practitioners, policymakers, and the youth can come together to address the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage. Programs such as the MOOC for ICH and Sustainable Development, the establishment of higher education network, and platforms like ICH Links serve as key instruments for this purpose. Our efforts are not merely about preserving heritage for the sake of preservation. Rather, we focus on empowering stakeholders to adapt and thrive in the face of modern challenges, ensuring that living heritage continues to contribute to economic resilience, social cohesion, and intercultural dialogue for peace. In the Asia-Pacific, where development pressures and cultural erasure are particularly pronounced, such works are essential. As we look forward to MONDIACULT 2025, the objective of the conference, which are promoting sustainable cultural development, fostering cultural rights, and ensuring the protection of cultural diversity, align perfectly with the work of HCAP and other Category 2 centers will be also. By continuing to strengthen regional cooperation and build dynamic networks, we can ensure that intangible cultural heritage remains a powerful tool for addressing global challenges and contributing to sustainable development. In conclusion, while my focus today has been on intangible cultural heritage and the role of HCAP, it is clear that the work of Category 2 centers extends far beyond this field. In facing the modern challenges that confront the culture sector, the most important role of C2C Category 2 centers is to bridge member states, communities, and individuals, ensuring cultural diversity continues to be a vibrant force pursuing harmonious, peaceful world. as we move toward MONDIACULT 2025, it is essential that we continue to build on the lessons learned from our past efforts. The work being done at the Category 2 centers provides a pathway for fostering collaboration, ensuring that cultural heritage is safeguarded, celebrated, and integrated into the future of sustainable development. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. I would now like to go back to the member states. Malaysia. Malaysia, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the distinguished excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, I would like to thank the organizer for this very important meeting. Let me share some insights on the Malaysia's programs. The Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Malaysia launched the National Cultural Policy in 2021, emphasizing on cultural diversity to foster and preserve national identity, protecting cultural rights and equal participations in cultural activities by all Malaysians regardless of age, gender, and ethnicity. Malaysia's National Culture Policy serves as a framework for preserving, developing, and promoting the nation's cultural identity. The policy aligns with national development goals while ensuring the sustainability of Malaysia's diverse cultural heritage in a globalized world and a digital era. We are now focusing on cultural education and digitalization strategies, integrating cultural policies with the Industry 4.0 frameworks. Initiatives such as the Digital Heritage Mapping Project, e-galleries, and AI-driven heritage documentation are key milestones in preserving national identity while embracing digital innovation. We are also fostering strategic collaborations with tech industries, universities, schools, academia, and international cultural organizations to develop digital literacy among cultural practitioners. The Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Malaysia has implemented several best practices in the realm of culture and education and digitalization of culture, focusing on the preservation, promotion, and integration of cultural heritage into formal and informal learning systems and digitalized heritage. Some of the key initiatives include: first is focus on cultural education. This is meant to focus on the cultural heritage. Malaysia integrates cultural education at various levels. There are three different levels. First is cultural integration in schools and universities. We have collaborations with the Ministry of Education, the incorporation into the national curriculum. The reason being because we would like to inculcate the cultural policies, the cultural diversity from primary schools itself. We have cultural subjects such as visual arts, music, performing arts, and heritage studies, which are included in primary and secondary education. It also actually proceeds at university levels also. And we have other programs such as the National Young Arts Talent Program that provides opportunities for talented children to excel in traditional and contemporary arts at the national and international levels. Second is that we have strategic partnerships with the National Academy of Arts and Culture Heritage. And I'm proud to mention that this academy is actually under the purview of our ministry itself, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. And we have also collaborations with other public universities for structured learning in cultural disciplines. And then we have National Arts Talents Program. As I mentioned just now, we have the National Young Arts Talent Program, which nurtures young talents in traditional and contemporary arts. Besides that, we do encourage cultural clubs and co-curricular activities to engage and encourage student participation in traditional performances, crafts, arts, music, and performances. And the next level that we have programs is at the community-based cultural learning. One of the main programs that we have is called Tunas Budaya, a community program to educate youth on traditional arts and performances. Besides that, we have cultural outreach programs and art camps with communities. The ministry supports all these programs directly and indirectly through our agencies and departments, and we have also the non-government organizations supporting these kind of programs. We organize usually mobile workshops and cultural camps for rural and indigenous communities in making sure no one is left behind. Besides that, we also have the heritage apprenticeship programs. We have a master's program, master artisan program, and we have the mentoring program for younger generations in traditional crafts, dance, and music. The third level we have is capacity building for cultural educators. We give training to teachers, instructors, and we implement and we have workshops for arts educators and cultural practitioners. Besides that, we have cultural resource development. We create textbooks, digital archives, and lesson plans focused on the Malaysian culture. The third level that we see is we have programs is digitalization strategies for cultural sustainability. The digital transformation of Malaysia's cultural sector ensures wider access, preservation, and economic viability of the arts and heritage. Under this program, we have the digital documentation and cultural archives. The National Digital Cultural Repository is a platform documenting traditional performances, crafts, and oral traditions. Besides that, we have the virtual museums and heritage sites. It is actually a digitalization of museums, historical sites, and artifacts. Furthermore, we have the AI and GIS mapping for cultural heritage. This is something new that we are working on, and we are working together with many IT companies, IT organizations. This uses technology to map cultural hotspots and heritage sites. Under this program also, we have digital education and e-learning platforms. We have online cultural learning modules. We develop this and we integrate with other programs such as the integration of cultural education in the Ministry of Education platforms. Furthermore, we have the interactive apps and gamification. Under this, we have the educational tools that engage students in cultural storytelling and crafts. Additionally, we have the latest VR and AR experiences. This includes virtual experiences for cultural tourism and immersive learning. Lastly, under the digitalization, we have digitalization of traditional arts and crafts. We have e-commerce for artisans, a platform like eCraft Bazaar to support local craftsmen. Next, we have the blockchain for cultural heritage. It's a platform whereby persons can explore digital ownership and global exposure for nation arts. Next, we have social media and streaming and promotion of cultural performances, storytelling, and digital exhibitions. In conclusion, Malaysia's national cultural policy provides a comprehensive strategy to ensure cultural sustainability through education and digital transformation. By integrating cultural learning in schools, empowering communities, and leveraging digital tools, Malaysia safeguards its rich heritage while embracing modern innovations to remain relevant in a rapidly evolving world. Thank you, Madam Chair, and all distinguished participants. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much. We now have ICOMOS Australia. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much.
By IFCCD. Sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests. I'm Dr. Susan McIntyre Tamoy, the ICOMOS Vice President for Asia Pacific region. The emerging issues for our region have been around for some time, but their impacts are being felt with increased urgency. And while I acknowledge the many and varied efforts of state parties in our region to improve cultural heritage protection and recognise its many benefits, I'll focus here on 3 areas where we think further work is needed. These areas are heritage impact assessment, water-related heritage, and AI. Historic towns and cities across our region are struggling to reconcile the economic forces of modernisation and intensification of urban settlement. Related to this is the rapid drift of young residents of country towns and villages to larger cities as they look for jobs and opportunities. To build the resilience of our historic towns and cities, urgent attention needs to be given to invigorating sustainable cultural policies, including innovative adaptive reuse of cultural properties in ways that both conserve them and conserve their historic values and provide economic opportunities. Protect, sustain and promote the intangible cultural heritage of historic villages, towns and cities in ways that benefit Indigenous and local communities. Increase our focus on the interpretation and promotion of heritage places to build community appreciation of their heritage values and to reinforce community identities, and develop holistic approaches to the management of our towns and cities, promoting sustainability, community inclusivity and recognition of cultural and natural values. Water security is increasingly important for our communities, and a greater focus on understanding traditional water management practices is required. ICOMOS is exploring ways to bridge the regulatory and disciplinary divides separating the water managers and our heritage communities, and to promote sustainable stewardship of water-related culture and historic infrastructure. Thirdly, the unscrupulous mass production of fake souvenirs, artworks and handicrafts is of increasing concern in relation to the intellectual property of artisans and Indigenous peoples. The rise of unregulated use of artificial intelligence poses a potential catastrophic risk to the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage. The use of AI to develop cultural fakes has the potential to destroy the gains that have been made in many countries through the development of successful local microeconomies based on the production, promotion and sale of traditional handicrafts, artworks and music. Increased support for intergenerational transmission of traditional cultural knowledge and practices would help ensure an informed community vigilant to encroachment on their rights. We recommend incentives to ensure that local planning authorities formally adopt and endorse management principles, heritage management principles, as a keystone in planning and development approval processes. Recognition of the importance of community consultation in planning and development decisions. Raising public awareness of traditional practices associated with water and water-related historic assets to ensure that these assets continue to meet present and future water needs. Regional discussions to develop appropriate controls on the use of AI and protection of the rights of knowledge holders and ICH owners, and increased funding for education and public awareness of the value of heritage conservation requirements for free, prior and informed consent and the dangers posed by AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to now call upon IFCCD. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, esteemed participants and colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Hiroko Tsuboi-Friedman, and I'm a member of the International Federation of Coalition for Cultural Diversity, IFCCD, the EU UNESCO expert facility for the 2005 Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions and Cultural All Nippon, CAN. I would like to express our gratitude to UNESCO, the Government of India, and all participants for organizing these consultations. The International Federation of Coalition for Cultural Diversity, IFCCD, is the voice of cultural professionals around the world. It brings together some 30 organizations globally, representing creators, artists, independent producers, distributors, and publishers in the books, film, television, music, live performances, and the visual arts sectors. IFCCD also promotes the participation and the consultation of its members and civil society in the meetings of the 2005 Convention's monitoring bodies. Now, culture is not just a reflection of identity, it is a driver for peace, dialogue, and resilience. Yet, cultural rights remains restricted in many parts of the world. Freedom of artistic expressions across the culture, access to culture, and the right to participate in cultural life must be protected alongside social and economic rights. We call on governments, cultural institutions, civil society, and businesses to integrate culture into peace-building policies, fostering mutual understanding and conflict prevention, safeguard cultural heritage and artistic expressions in crisis zones in particular, ensuring they are not erased or weaponized, recognizing the support of artists as peace builders, ensuring their safety, freedom of expressions, and mobility. Leverage the existing international frameworks, in particular the UNESCO 2005 Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions and 1918 recommendations concerning the status of the artist as driving instruments for peace and humanity, not only for the contemporary, but for the past and the future as well. AI, artificial intelligence, transforming how culture is created, accessed, and valued. While it offers opportunities to preservations and collaborations, it also raises concerns about the fair remunerations, algorithmic bias, and cultural sovereignty. We urge policymakers, AI developers, and cultural institutions to implement the UNESCO recommendations on the ethics of AI, ensuring AI safeguards cultural rights and diversity. Guarantee fair compensations for artists whose works are used in AI-generated content. Ensure AI-driven content governance supports diverse cultural expressions rather than marginalizing them. Now comes to trade, as economic and security concerns shape trade relations and digital governance, we must recognize culture as a global public good, not just as a commodity. We encourage governments, economic organizations, and cultural stakeholders to enlarge corporations such as ASEAN, APEC, and RCEP to ensure fair cultural trade policies, promote digital trade policies that protect cultural diversity in global markets, expand civil society participation in AI and cultural trade discussions. Ensuring culture remains a force for peace and ethical innovation requires inclusive, transparent governance with engagement from civil society, artists, businesses, researchers, and policymakers. We urge all stakeholders to strengthen global cooperations on culture-driven peace initiatives, commit to fair cultural policies that uphold cultural rights and economic justice, foster collaborations between civil society, AI developers, and trade policymakers. Asia-Pacific's cultural diversity is a strategic asset for peace, ethical AI development, and global corporations. We must act now to ensure culture remains a force for unity and AI amplifies human creativity rather than replacing it. I thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I would request the Secretariat to please let me know if there are more speakers who wish to take the floor right now, either from the member states or the international NGOs. Should I ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. We see one hand raised by Turkmenistan. Please confirm if you would like to take the floor, Turkmenistan. There is an icon. Oh, okay. All right. So thank you very much. I understand that this was the entire list. We have already given floor to all the speakers in this session. So maybe now move on to the next session, which is the name of which is Culture as a Standalone Goal in the Post-2030 Agenda. So we are moving on to the next session because we have concluded the first session, that is session number 3, ahead of time. So we may go ahead, if that is okay with the Secretariat and all of us. Now, I announce session number 4. This session will discuss positioning culture as a standalone goal in the post-2030 UN Sustainable Development Agenda. This is a crucial step in ensuring culture's integration into global sustainable development frameworks. And like before, I would once again invite Mr. Tim Curtis to introduce the session. Tim.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Chair. So I'll just give a brief introduction to the issue on culture as a standalone goal of the post-2030 agenda. You will recall that the MONDIACULT 2022 declaration advocates for the inclusion of culture as a standalone goal in that post-2030 development agenda. And this commitment has been supported now in multiple international forums, highlighting the central role of culture in achieving equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development that contributes to economic growth and leaves no one behind. In 2023, the political declaration of the SDG Summit included, for the first time, a paragraph dedicated to culture. This call has been reiterated in various political declarations at the level of heads of state and minister, including the G20 leaders' declarations in New Delhi and Rio de Janeiro, the BRICS declaration in Johannesburg, and ministerial declarations endorsed since 2023 by countries from the G77 plus China, ICESCO, the European Union, CECC, SICA, and the Andean Community, among others. The Pact for the Future, adopted last September by the General Assembly in New York, marked a significant advance in this regard, consolidating culture at the core of economic, social, and environmental policies, and promoting intercultural dialogue and international cooperation. The high-level ministerial meeting of culture ministers at COP29 also called for reinforcing support for including culture as a standalone goal in future discussions on advancing sustainable development beyond 2030, recognizing thus the transformative power of culture as a facilitator and engine of sustainable development. So according to the survey, the Member States Consultation Survey, policy makers are actively working to establish culture as a standalone goal in that post-2030 agenda through 3 main actions. They are clarifying the reasons and objectives of culture within government frameworks, setting up mechanisms to integrate and align national cultural policies, and addressing immediate and long-term challenges in advancing cultural policies. Additionally, these efforts emphasize the role of culture in sustainable development, social inclusion, economic growth, and of course, environmental sustainability. So the question therefore is, why include a standalone goal for culture in the post-2030 agenda? And some of the arguments I will read that have been summarized among these discussions are as follows. Firstly, to advance integrated, inclusive, and equitable cultural policies that address the diverse dimensions of culture, maximizing its impact on key areas of sustainable development, such as poverty eradication, social inclusion, decent work, environmental protection, and so on, and also with a particular focus on education. Secondly, to strengthen the role of tangible and intangible cultural heritage, as well as the cultural and creative industries, in facing challenges such as climate change and natural disasters, contributing to inclusive economic, social, and environmental development, as well as peace and security. Then to promote more inclusive multilateralism by fostering collaboration between countries and the multilateral cultural sector, especially to contribute to peace building and the protection of culture in emergency situations. Then to support the localization of sustainable development, ensuring that development is indeed community-led and safeguarding pluralistic societies that are fundamental for defending universal human rights. Also, to consider a specific goal as a strategic investment to enhance the capacity of member states to implement the Sustainable Development Agenda through 2030 and beyond, which would allow for capturing and leveraging the multifaceted impact of culture across various areas. And finally, to ensure the development and resilience of the cultural sector as an independent goal would strengthen the prioritization of culture in the public agenda, improve the monitoring of its impact on sustainable development based on data and evidence, and enable a more sustainable financing ecosystem for the cultural sector. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for that overview. I would now invite all the member states and the international organizations to take the floor to address this very significant topic. Like before, the request is to keep your interventions concise, up to 3 minutes, so that these discussions can be as inclusive as possible. And for the list of speakers, I would like to ask the Secretariat to please hand over the list. Beginning with Australia, Alison, please take the floor.
Thank you to our chair. Thank you, Lily. And also hello to my esteemed colleagues. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and what time zone you're in today. Culture plays an important role in contributing to sustainable development and to the achievement of the SDGs. Arts and cultural practices contribute to people's livelihoods and improve well-being. They can sustain families and communities, advance gender equality, support social cohesion, and strengthen the voice of marginalised communities. Australia is committed to focusing efforts on achieving the existing SDGs rather than preempting discussions on the post-2030 agenda. When we do consider the post-2030 agenda, it is imperative that it be through consultations led by UN member states. Australia is committed to integrating culture into the sustainable development actions in a meaningful and impactful way. At MONDIACULT 2025, we welcome opportunities to explore the diversity of and raise awareness on the role of arts and culture for sustainable development. Measures to achieve this could include building on the UNESCO's Culture 2030 Indicators Framework, which was initiated in 2019 and which seeks to track culture's enabling contribution to the current goals and targets, encouraging research that supports evidence-based case studies, and encouraging countries to collect and report data on culture's contribution to sustainable development in their voluntary national reviews, in consultation with the relevant UN agencies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Australia. Indonesia, please take the floor, followed by Bhutan, followed by Bangladesh. Indonesia, please.
Thank you. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
President.
Bhutan, can you hear us? Yes.
Yeah,
Please
yes.
take the floor. Thank you.
Okay. As this is the last session, I would like to convey our heartiest appreciation and gratitude to UNESCO and the government of India for organizing this consultation meeting. In the agenda for the standalone goal in next UN post 2030 agenda, as we look towards a future beyond 2030, it is clear that culture must emerge as a standalone goal in global development. Our collective journey toward a more sustainable and inclusive world calls for vision that goes beyond traditional economic metrics. Inspired by Bhutan's pioneering model of gross national happiness, a framework that places equal importance on preservation and promotion of culture, we are reminded that human progress is multidimensional. We must therefore adopt a holistic approach that embraces cultural heritage as a vital pillar of sustainable development. Cultural heritage is far more than a repository of the past. It is a dynamic source of identity that binds communities together. It nurtures resilience, instills values, and shapes the narratives that define who we are. In an era marked by rapid technological advancement and environmental challenges, our cultural traditions provide the wisdom necessary to navigate change. They offer unique insights into living in harmony with nature and with one another, reinforcing social cohesion and fostering environmental stewardship. Moreover, culture fuels innovation by encouraging creative expression and critical thinking, qualities that are essential as we tackle the complexity of modern development. A dedicated global goal for culture would serve as a safeguard for our shared heritage, ensuring that it continues to inspire and empower communities around the world. It would drive inclusive growth by recognizing that progress is not solely measured by economic success, but also by well being, creativity, and resilience of our people. In conclusion, Bhutan stands firmly in support of recognizing culture as a standalone goal in the next UN post 2030 agenda. We believe that by elevating culture to its rightful place at the heart of sustainable development, we can pave the way for a future that truly reflects the diverse aspirations and values of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I once again invite Indonesia. If you can please confirm that you can hear me. Indonesia? Is Indonesia connected? No, I think they are. Okay. All right. So please let me know when Indonesia gets back. Perhaps we can call them. In the meantime, I'll invite Bangladesh to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me, please?
Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. Respected Chair, perhaps in today's consultation, this is the last time we are going to intervene. Regarding the fourth session and its focus area, there is no denying the fact that culture deserves to stand distinctively in the global development agenda long before. Now, having the present SDGs set to be implemented by 2030, governments are all set to mobilize whatever resources they can avail to implement the goals. As such, culture being absent in the agenda has been sidelined, if not neglected, to be considered as the prime mover of the National Sustainable Development Plan and its implementation strategy. It has been experienced over the years by the UNESCO as well as the member states, as shared in different workshops and seminars, that every individual government of each member state has been more heavily engaged with areas like food security, education, health, and so on, as these issues are targeted to be achieved through Agenda 2030. As a result, culture as a complete whole of human beings wellness got lesser and lesser attention from the policymakers and planners of national development. Even within the governments, culture ministers had to bargain time and again for budgets to carry out this sector's programs. Madam Chair, therefore, it is high time that UNESCO came up with a full-scale advocacy recommendation report in the MONDIACULT 2025 so that the UN set culture as a standalone goal in the next global agenda on development beyond 2030. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I would once again request to check if Indonesia is back with us. No, they are not. They are not responding right now, but please do place a call or a message. So if there are no more member states left, I'll move ahead and invite the international NGOs to take the floor, starting with ICOMOS. ICOMOS,
Thank
please
you.
take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Gabriel Caballero, and I'm the former focal point of ICOMOS for the SDGs and a member of ICOMOS Philippines. Thank you for the organizers of the Asia-Pacific Regional Consultation. ICOMOS recognizes that as part of the changes that will happen in the next few years, critical steps need to be taken to unite the cultural sector, to think of new solutions, and engage state partners to achieve our common aim to create a standalone goal beyond Agenda 2030. As part of our efforts in ICOMOS, we have passed a resolution in our General Assembly in 2023 entitled Cultural Dimensions of the SDGs. The aim of this resolution is to strengthen discussions among heritage practitioners, to engage in a debate, and emphasize the role of culture and heritage in achieving sustainable development. We firmly believe that the absence of culture in the UN Agenda 2030 was a significant oversight, and reliance on a single economic indicator as the sole method of evaluation failed to capture its fundamental role in sustainable development. Focusing only on economic growth has the potential to exacerbate the exploitation, privatization, commercialization, and monetization of nature and culture globally. We are working with UNESCO and colleagues from the Culture 2030 Goal Campaign to craft potential priorities for the cultural sector, and we hope that this initiative will support UN member states in future debates. In the zero draft for the standalone goal for culture that we have created, we have identified some potential targets, which I can mention a few below. Number 1 is realize cultural rights for all. Number 2 is promote a culture of peace and nonviolence. Number 3 is protect and safeguard all forms of heritage. Number 4, protect and promote the diversity of cultural expressions. Number 5, promote local culture and products, the economic and social rights of artists and cultural professionals and artistic freedom. Number 6, enhance legal conditions and practical opportunities for mobility of cultural professionals. 7, empower indigenous peoples to strengthen their own institutions, cultures, and languages. 8, develop a cultural approach to environmental protection and sustainable urbanization. 9, strengthen cultural institutions, including those international cooperation. And finally, number 10, ensure that through transversal multi-stakeholder collaboration, that cultural considerations are taken into account in all international development goals. Within ICOMOS, our Sustainable Development Goals Working Group is in the process of gathering such data of good practices and methodologies of the transversal linkages relevant to practice and policy, which is built on theoretical and applied knowledge. And in ICOMOS Philippines, for example, we have partnered with the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated to create a culture scorecard, which will analyze the contributions of various initiatives to measurable indicators of various facets of culture. We recommend critical discussions among stakeholders, institutions, practitioners, and other collaborators to address the challenges and identify leverage points for system change where culture and heritage are fully recognized for sustainability of people and the planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I understand we are reconnected with Indonesia. So I would first invite them to take the floor, should they wish so. Indonesia, would you like to take the floor, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the bad connections in my room. Indonesia believes that culture as public good as a crucial point. MONDIACULT 2022 ministerial declarations shows that culture is an important pillar in cohesiveness as international society, preserving well-being, increasing the overall quality of life. Hence, as development and culture are intertwined, culture should be its own standalone goal in the next United Nations post 2030 agenda. Indonesia believes that culture drives important aspects of lives. Culture also ensures many important issues such as environmental change, economic prosperity, and human rights. With culture as a standalone goal, we can drive change and strive to achieve the goals as set in the Sustainable Development Agendas. Culture preserves humanity as a whole. Priority items that should be targeted in the inclusion of culture as a goal in the next United Nations post-2030 agenda are granted access to cultural rights, strengthening safeguarding system for cultural prosperities and heritage, and promoting cultural diversity and inclusions. We are also open to including priorities related to traditional communities, gender equality, and economic opportunities to be addressed within this target. We believe culture will be a driving force to the success of Sustainable Development Agenda as it envelops many issues and brings communities together towards a greater good. We stand at a pivotal moment to reaffirm the fundamental role of culture in sustainable development, particularly in ensuring its position as a standalone goal in the post-2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Culture is not merely a supporting element of development, it is the foundation upon which various sectors of life depend, from the creative economy and education to environmental sustainability and social cohesion. Culture plays a key role in fostering resilient, innovative, and competitive societies. Indonesia firmly advocates for culture to be recognized as a standalone goal in the post-2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Establishing culture as independent objectives will enhance global capacity to safeguard cultural heritage, promote the diversity of cultural expression, and ensure equitable access for all communities to the benefits of culture. A part of our commitment to advancing cultural policy, Indonesia has undertaken a strategic initiative by establishing the Ministry of Culture as a dedicated institution. This decision underscores our belief that cultural affairs require specialized governance separate from education and other sectors, given the complexity of cultural issues that demand focused attention. These institutional reforms aims to enhance the effectiveness of the cultural policies in addressing both global and national challenges, strengthen the preservation and utilization of cultural heritage as a development asset, integrate cultural policies into sustainable development agendas, and expand Indonesia's cultural diplomacy on the global stage. Indonesia also emphasized that the need for measurable indicators to assess the impact of cultural policies on sustainable development. In this regard, we propose that MONDIACULT 2025 produce a more systematic framework to develop global indicators that measures culture's contribution to various sectors, encourage member states to adopt data-driven approaches in cultural policy making, and enhance coordination among international institutions to support the effective implementation of cultural policies. Ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia reaffirms its commitment to making culture a foundation for both national and global development. We stand ready to collaborate with fellow member states in formulating concrete and measurable strategies to position culture as a standalone goal in the post-2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. We are steadfast in our commitment to strengthening the role of culture in addressing contemporary global challenges and ready to collaborate with fellow nations and stakeholders to shape policies that ensure culture remains a significant pillar of sustainable development, social harmony, and technological progress. That's all. Terima kasih. Thank you very much indeed again.
Thank you so much. I would now request ICH CAP, from Republic of Korea, the Category 2 Center, to please take floor.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today, Yang Seo from HCAP Category 2 Centers in the Republic of Korea. A standalone culture goal is to emphasize the essential role of cultural heritage, creativity, and diversity in building a more resilient, equitable world. Culture drives progress by fostering social cohesion, enhancing economic resilience, advancing climate action, and promoting well-being of individuals even. Culture is fundamentally embedded in the values and innovations that drive sustainable development already. It is not a mere accessory, but a core element crucial to achieving every objective within the 2030 Agenda. For example, in fostering inclusive societies, SDG 10, culture can serve as a platform for dialogue, empathy, and mutual respect among diverse communities, fostering tolerance and understanding. By valuing intangible cultural heritage, such as traditional knowledge system, language, and artistic practices, we can create sustainable economies, SDG 8, through the development of creative industries rooted in culture traditions, generating local jobs, innovative solutions. At the same time, cultural diversity is crucial for advancing climate resilience, SDG 13, and environmental sustainability, SDG 15, particularly through the traditional ecological knowledge of indigenous communities. It is now time to synthesize these insights and draw greater attention to culture as a standalone goal within the post-2030 agenda. Culture not only directly supports several SDGs, but also serves as a cross-cutting enabler of sustainable progress across the entire framework. To elevate culture to a central goal, we must include clear, measurable objectives. These should focus on recognizing cultural heritage as a driver of development, fostering cultural diversity, encouraging cultural innovation, from artistic expression to the digital transformation, and empowering cultural institutions and communities. Specific targets to ensure the successful integration of culture into the post-2030 agenda. It is essential to develop measurable targets that will guide cultural policies and initiatives globally. These include the specific targets could include tracking the safeguarding of cultural heritage, measuring the economic contribution of creative industries and cultural tourism to national GDP, ensuring the protection of cultural rights within national legislation, and expanding cultural education initiatives. Positioning culture as a standalone goal in the post-2030 UN 2030 agenda presents an incredible opportunity to transform the global approach to development. It will create a new paradigm in which cultural heritage and creative industry are not just seen as components of a sustainable future, but as a foundational pillars. In this regard, MONDIACULT 2025 can serve as a platform for collectively defining the framework that ensures culture's central role in global sustainable development. Through MONDIACULT 2025, we have the collective opportunity to establish a framework that ensures culture remains a cornerstone of global progress. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. I would now give the floor to IRCI, International Research Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia Pacific region, Japan. Please take the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to express my thanks to UNESCO and its New Delhi office, as well as the Indian government for inviting Category 2 centers to this consultation. I'm participating from the International Research Center for Intangible Cultural Heritage in the Asia-Pacific region, or IRCI, one of the UNESCO Category 2 centers in the field of intangible cultural heritage located in Japan. This is the first time I have attended a MONDIACULT-related meeting, so it's a very good opportunity for me to learn what is being discussed in terms of cultural policy. I have confirmed that almost all important issues have been covered during the past 2 days, But I'd like to share some of my thoughts, which will not be directly related to my center's programs. Of all the necessary measures to address various challenges, funding is probably the most important. I think that in my country, Japan, the legal framework has been established and continues to be upgraded. For example, the law for the protection of cultural properties was already enacted in 1950, when Japan was still in the struggle to rise from the ashes, when Japan barely started its rapid post-war reconstruction period. And 75 years later, the budget for culture is far from sufficient, even though the law was amended many times to respond to newly emerged issues. This reflects the priorities of the nation or the nationals. Generally speaking, the priority of culture is low in the government as well in the people's minds. People place a higher priority on economic development or disaster mitigation. Therefore, in order to obtain more budget, in order to get more funding, we emphasize that culture contributes to economic growth or disaster risk reduction. That's true, but other sectors also claim that they contribute to economic development or disaster mitigation. Can we win the battle? Culture is not an agent of economy. It's not an agent of patriotism either. Culture is in itself valuable. Whether it's traditional, modern, or foreign, culture brings us pleasure, joy, healing, spiritual richness, and so on. I remember some delegates said that culture is not a luxury, but a necessity. I completely agree. And I'm totally in favor of positioning culture as a standalone goal in the post-2030 agenda. And if I add one thing, education is the most effective tool to plant in the minds of people the idea that culture is important. And therefore, we should strengthen cooperation with the education sector. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I would invite IFCCD followed by UNESCO Chair in International Law and Cultural Heritage. IFCCD for now. Please take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies and esteemed participants and colleagues, I can thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity to speak, and also thanking you for selecting this very crucial topic. I'm sorry, I'm coming down with a cold. The culture, has been said, yes, it is not just a sector, it is a foundation of identity, resilience, and sustainable development. The IFCCD represents represents cultural professionals worldwide, as I said, creators, artists, independent producers and distributors, publishers in the literature, film, television, music, performing arts, and visual arts. And it is on their behalf that the IFCCD served as a member of the steering group of, for the hashtag Culture 2030 goal campaign, 2030 goal campaign, which has long advocated for the formulation and adoption for the Sustainable Development Goal SDGs dedicated to culture. In the early draft of the Pact for the Future of the United Nations Summit for the Future, a dedicated culture goal was included actually in the earlier versions, but it was removed in the final version, unfortunately. While we welcome the measure 11, which acknowledges culture's role in sustainable development, this recognition must go further. A standalone culture goal in the post-2030 agenda is essential to ensure long-term commitment and action. And why this matter to Asia Pacific? Culture and climate action in this and traditional knowledge often proven solutions for climate resilience, but often undervalued. The cultural rights and economic sustainability, the culture and the creative sector drives economic growth, but faces precarious conditions and the lack of protections. The cultural diversity as a strength, with over 60% of the world population, Asia Pacific's rich cultures must be safeguarded, not just the market commodity. And therefore, we all share responsibility, the government, civil society, the business and digital platforms, and everyone, to ensure culture's inclusion in future global sustainable development agendas, invest in fair cultural as well as scientific and academic ecosystem, including digital aspects, strengthen the regional and international cooperation to protect cultural diversity. And therefore, to conclude, MONDIACULT 2025 is a unique opportunity to place culture at the heart of the sustainable development. We look forward to working together to ensure culture is recognized, protected, and supported as a global public good together. I thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank you all.
Thank you so much, and please take care. I would now invite the UNESCO Chair in International Law and Cultural Heritage to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I will be brief because I made my formal intervention yesterday in session 2, but I'd like to reiterate, because it covers the topic of this session as well, and I represent the UNESCO Chair in International Law and Cultural Heritage, and also am a co-coordinator of the UniTwin Network on Culture and Emergencies, that we both collaborations, which are international collaborations, support the efforts in relation to the achievement of a standalone SDG on culture. I'm reiterating this not only because of what has been said by colleagues previously, but also recognising that this was an effort in the previous drafting of the Sustainable Development Goals, and it fell short. And we know that it needs to be a sustained effort from many stakeholders, from governments to NGOs, to other forms of civil society action, including academics. So we're very much committed to that, but also, and all the speakers raised the importance of indicators. We know that indicators are very important in holding those that need to be held responsible, and this will only be done again through the recognition of culture as a standalone SDG. At the present moment of time, in the current SDGs, they are very, very minor indicators which cover culture, if at all. So for these reasons, and the reasons I outlined in session 2, we very much support the realisation. We know that it is a mammoth task, the realisation of a standalone SDG for culture, and that those efforts need to start now and need to be concerted. So we're very, very grateful for the support of that.
So thank you very much. The Secretariat may kindly confirm if there are any more speakers, either from the member states or from the international NGOs who wish to take the floor.
No, we see none.
All right. So that brings us to the end of session 4, and we have concluded really early. May I also ask the member states as well as NGOs to give their written statements to us, so that we may take cognizance of their written statements and their views in preparation of the final report. This brings us to an end of the session 4, and the next session would be the concluding session, the closing session, and we would have to take a break for quite some time right now and reconvene at 1:30 p.m. India time. Please, I request everyone and I invite everyone to be present here for the closing session, which shall have a report presented by the rapporteur, that is Singapore. We shall also hear from the ADG Culture UNESCO, Mr. Ernesto Otone, the Vice Minister of Culture from Spain, which is the host country for MONDIACULT 2025, as well as the Vice Minister from Ministry of Culture and also Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. So with your permission, I would now conclude this session and look forward to meeting all of you at Please enjoy the 3-hour break, but we shall resume this meeting at 1:30 p.m. and be present here for the closing session and the important remarks being made, that are being prepared to be made in the closing session. So thank you very much and see you back at 1:30 p.m. Namaste.